Shabbat Shalom. It is an odd thing to begin in July. For most of the world, this is firmly mid-year. Nobody thinks this is the beginning. There are so many beginnings in our lives. I can think of a couple. January 1st, the new year. September marks the beginning of a school year. A lot of us are on that cycle. Our Jewish year begins with Rosh Hashanah in the fall, and according to the rabbis, there are actually 3 other Jewish New Years in addition to what we know as Rosh Hashanah. None of those are July 1st. July is not a traditional time of beginning, but maybe that's why this is the perfect time to begin. This is probably the only time I will ever disagree with one of my personal sages, Dame Julie Andrews, who teaches that the beginning is a very good place to start. The middle is so much more interesting and impactful, but because I can't totally disagree with Julie Andrews, let's start at the very beginning of my journey briefly. We will have so much time to get to know one another, but while I have an opportunity, let me give you a brief overview of my journey that led me to stand here in front of you. I'm originally from the greater Chicago area, where I grew up at Congregation BJBE in Deerfield, Illinois, if that sounds familiar. It might be because Rabbi Fenster worked there before he came here last year. If you attended Rabbi Fenster's installation this past spring, you've already met the clergy I grew up with. That is the community that sparked my Jewish journey. I know you can all read my bio, so I'll speed up just a bit and mention a few places that have made me who I am. I grew up at Osrui, the URJ summer camp in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. I spent 13 summers there. I earned my degrees in religious studies and vocal performance from the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. I studied to become a rabbi at Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem and Cincinnati. And most recently, I served as the rabbi educator at Temple Emmanuel in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm not pleased that I brought my weather with me, and I'm sorry. All of these places have had a deep impact on who I am as a rabbi, as a Jew, and as a person. We human beings love journeys. Most of our favorite stories are stories of a journey, whether it's an epic hero's journey like the one of Odysseus, or a quieter, more introspective journey like that of a memoir that touched our soul. But as much as I believe it is human nature to connect with a journey, I think there is something special about the connection between Jews and journeys. Because while every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, we strongly emphasize the middle, the journey itself. It's about the experience and the growth, not the destination. And we are very much mid-journey this evening. While this may be my first Shabbat here with Kol Ami, the Kol Ami community has celebrated, give or take, 5,201 Shabbats together. I'm joining you in year 101 of Kol Ami's journey, so don't give me too much credit. The math was not that hard. But year 101, that's a very good place to start. I say all this because it might feel like there have been a lot of beginnings and endings here in the past few years. Change and stops and starts and restarts. It can be really hard to go through all of that. But if we remember, it's all part of a bigger picture, the journey of this community. It all falls into place. And I'm honored to join you as one of your clergy on this next stage. It's fitting that in our Torah this week, we find ourselves in the midst of our wanderings. We're in the book of Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. And the entirety of the book takes place with our ancestors wandering, meandering, journeying ever closer to the promised land. Now, if you were to look at a map, which some of you may have done, you might reasonably wonder, why it took 40 years to get from Egypt to Israel. Even without cell phones and GPS, surely it could not have taken that long. But there was a purpose in the journey itself. Sometimes we jokingly talk about how whiny the Israelites were on the journey, and they do complain their fair share. And things aren't always easy. In this week's portion, Korah leads a rebellion against the Israelite leadership only to be struck down. If you're interested, we're going to talk more about that tomorrow morning. Every journey has its trials, but along the twisting and turning way through the wilderness, on the journey, our ancestors transformed from a collection of former slaves into a true collective, a people. On the journey, our people learned how to live in community, how to respect one another and take care of one another. It was only once they had journeyed together that they were worthy of receiving Torah and entering the promised land. So yes, this is the perfect time for me to begin at Kol Ami, right in the middle of the journey. My journey, your journey, and our journey. I'm excited to blend my voice with the multitude of voices in this community as we've already begun this evening. And wherever we go next, I look forward to going, all of us, together. Shabbat Shalom.